The Constitution of India, Preamble. We, the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic and to secure to all its citizens justice, social, economic and political, liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith and worship, equality of status and of opportunity, and to promote among them all fraternity, assuring the dignity of the individual and the unity and integrity of the nation. In our Constituent Assembly, this 26th day of November 1949, do hereby adopt, enact and give to ourselves this Constitution.
Hello, 8th standard children. Hope you all are fine. Hope you all are happy. Hope you all are watching all the videos. Hope you are having a nice time in your house. Hope you will join school very fast. Hope you will get very good marks. Hope, isn't it? I have been using this word hope many times. Why? This word hope is a very small word. That is, it contains only 4 letters. But it carries a huge significance in our lives. We move on with this word hope. We hope that everything will be good in our life. Hope keeps us moving. Hope gives us the energy to sustain, to overcome all the difficulties in our life. The hope that one day everything will be fine keeps us on our track daily, every week, every month, throughout our life. Even in our school, there is an organization called Hope. You all know about it. Hope, what is the full form of that? Humans offering paradise on earth. So with the hope that you all will be very good human beings who will be in future trying to create paradise on earth. With the hope that you will be successful in all the endeavors that you take on. The hope that you will move forward happily. And with the hope that you will be listening to my class as usual attentively, I move on to my next topic. Where did I stop last time? Do you remember? I started with separation techniques. First one was using a separating funnel and the second one was sublimation. Right? So in separating funnel, you will be given 2 immiscible liquids and you can separate those. In sublimation, you will be given a mixture of one sublimable substance and another solid powder, and then you can separate it. For example, camphor and glass powder. You can carry on sublimation and separate camphor and glass powder, isn't it? So today, the third separation technique that I am going to teach you is centrifugation. I told you I am not going order-wise as it is there in the textbook. Now, what is centrifugation? As soon as you hear the word centrifugation, the term that must come to your mind is high-speed rotation or high-speed spinning. Centrifugation means high-speed rotation, high speed. That is the meaning of centrifugation. See, you might have seen the centrifugation in daily life. If you have a washing machine in your house, you might have seen the water going out from our wet clothes. How does it go? Washing machine. The tub, it rotates, the drum rotates in high speed, isn't it? And the whole water goes out and we get nearly dry clothes. So that centrifugation is applied. The principle of centrifugation is used. High speed rotation. Okay? Now, centrifugation, what is this process? I will explain it to you in detail. This method, centrifugation, is used to separate components of a mixture based on their mass difference. Once again I tell you, this method is used to separate components of a mixture based on their mass difference. That is to separate insoluble particles in a liquid mixture on the basis of their mass. എല്ലാവർക്കും മനസ്സിലായോ? ടീച്ചർ പറഞ്ഞുതരാം. Okay. Now this method centrifugation is used in our daily life, I told you. Suppose for example, just imagine, okay, I am not well, I have fever. I go to meet a doctor. He asked me to take a blood test. So I will approach the lab. What they will do? They will collect my blood sample. This blood sample of mine will be put in a test tube. Okay? They will put the blood sample in a test tube. This is the test tube which now contains blood samples. And this test tube will be put in an instrument or an apparatus called as centrifuge. So what is the name of the apparatus that is used to carry out centrifugation called? It is called as centrifuge. So now this test tube will be put in a centrifuge. That is a machine, I will show you, it is there in the textbook. This will be put in that centrifuge and it will be rotated at a high speed. Okay? This will be rotated at a high speed. When it rotates, automatically what happens? The blood cells in this sample will on its own separate. This blood sample will particles under. You know different parts of our blood. What are those? You might have studied RBC, WBC, plasma, platelets. Doctor has asked me to take a differential count of my blood. Isn't it? So this will automatically get split into different particles of blood. The lighter particles will go at the top. The heavier ones will be at the bottom. Okay? The light particles, plasma. If plasma is light, it will be at the top. Then comes WBC. Then will be WBC. Then the heavier ones will be down. Suppose it is RBC. It will come down automatically. So what I did? What was done? Blood sample was taken. It was put in this test tube. This test tube was put in a centrifuge. The centrifuge rotates at high speed. Automatically, the blood sample gets split into particles on the basis of the mass difference. Light mass weight will be at the top and the heavier mass particles will be at the bottom. And from this, we get a count at the plasma, at the RBC, at the WBC, at the platelets. And then it is printed and then it is given to us, and then with this we go and meet the doctor. Isn't it? It might have happened in our lives. Blood test, we might have gone and met doctors many times. So here, to separate the insoluble particles in our blood on the basis of their mass difference, centrifugation is carried out. Okay? So, the property used in centrifugation is mass difference. The name of the apparatus is centrifuge. And if they ask you what are the applications, the first application is to separate the blood cells from the blood samples. Okay? Centrifugation applies in the first application to separate blood cells from blood samples. Test tube is put in a centrifuge. Now the second application of centrifugation is to obtain precipitate while carrying out chemical experiments. That is, laboratory experiments, liquid mixture, insoluble particles settle mass, huge mass, precipitate. So, second application of centrifugation was to separate precipitate while carrying out chemical experiments. Precipitate. So what is precipitate? Precipitate is an insoluble gathering of particles. Sediment പോലെ താഴെ settle ആവില്ലേ? How it will settle? Only when the test tube containing the liquid mixture with the insoluble particles is put inside the centrifuge. The centrifuge will rotate at high speed and then the precipitate will settle down. Suppose this is a test tube containing the liquid mixture with the insoluble particles. Suppose this is a test tube that contains the mixture with insoluble particles. Now after placing this test tube inside the centrifuge, when we put the switch on, the centrifuge will rotate at a high speed. What happens automatically? This liquid solution will now turn into a clear solution at the top and a heavy precipitate at the bottom. Here top you will get a clear solution and here you will get a precipitate. So understood the meaning of the word precipitate? That is heavy mass. A heavy mass നമുക്ക് എങ്ങനെയൊക്കെ മുകളിൽ ക്ലിയർ ആയിട്ട് വരും. Okay, less mass ഉള്ള solution മുകളിൽ പോകും, heavy precipitate at the bottom. This was possible only because of centrifugation. Understood, my dear children? So the first application was to separate blood cells from the blood samples. Second one, to obtain precipitate while carrying out chemical experiments. If you happen to take science higher classes, you will have to do all this application. Now I will show you the advanced instruments that is used for centrifugation. What happens in that case is we put the test tubes in the centrifuge, allow it to rotate. The lighter particles will be near to the center, the heavier particles will be farther away from the center. Have a look at the figure, you will come to know what is done. Okay? So, first thing that you should know about centrifugation is it is high speed rotation. Second, the instrument or the apparatus used for it is called as centrifuge. Third, the property used in centrifugation is the basis of mass difference. Fourth one, if they ask you in exam, what are the applications of centrifugation? First, you have to write to separate blood samples in to separate blood cells in the blood samples. Second one, to separate precipitate in the given liquid mixture while we carry out chemical experiments. Now there is one more important major one which you might have seen in your houses itself. The third and the main easier one to understand is to separate butter from curd. From curd, you might have seen your mothers doing it. In mixer also it can be done. High speed rotation. Curd is put, it rotates in high speed, and what separates out? Butter separates out. Because butter has less mass. Okay? So what was insoluble, on the basis of mass difference, it automatically is separated out. Butter comes up on its own after high speed rotation. Is it clear, children? So this you have to write in the file, name of the process, name of the apparatus, the property used. What is the property used? The mass difference in particles and the three applications that I taught you. Okay? Now I am moving on to the next separation technique, that is chromatography. In my earlier two techniques, the techniques started with the letter S, isn't it? Here you can see it started with the letter C. This is centrifugation and now it is chromatography. Actually the word chroma is related to color. Okay? So the word chromatography. So it is understood this process, this technique is having some relation to color. Isn't it? It is related with color. This method was used earlier to separate colored substances. So it was called as chromatography. and it is a technique used to separate soluble particles in the same solvent. It is a technique used to separate two or more soluble particles in the same solvent. ഒരു സോൾവെൻറ്റ് ഒന്ന് തന്നെ ആയിരിക്കും, അതിൽ പല സൊല്യൂട്ട്സും ഡിസോൾവ് ആയി കിടക്കുമ്പോൾ ആ ഓരോരോ സൊല്യൂട്ടിനെ വേറെ വേറെ ആക്കാനാണ് ക്രോമാറ്റോഗ്രാഫി. Now I will teach you what is given in the textbook. Okay, listen to the process carefully, be attentive. First we have to take a filter paper, cut it in the shape of a ribbon, rectangular shape. Then take, or we have to mark a black spot using a black ink sketch pen. Where you will mark it? Not near to the edge of the filter paper. Leave some distance, maybe 2 or 3 centimeters above the edge of this. Okay, and mark a black spot. Now this is black in color. Actually this is black in color. We are marking it with a black sketch pen. A black spot you have to mark. Remember, not near to the edge of this filter paper, just above it. You have to leave some space and then mark it. Okay? Then this filter paper has to be immersed in a beaker that contains water in such a way that the tip of the filter paper or the edge of the filter paper touches the water. Only the edge must touch. The whole thing must not be dipped. Remember, this edge must touch the water as well. The water should not touch this portion. Only the edge must be touching this water surface. Okay? Now what happens? To some time you can see this water ascending. Ascending പറഞ്ഞാൽ എന്താ? അങ്ങനെ വെള്ളം മുകളിലേക്ക് പോകും. ഫിൽറ്റർ പേപ്പർ കൂടിയിട്ട് പോകും. Why? Because of capillary action. What is capillary action? This helps the water to move up on its own. When the water rises up and this slowly, what happens? This black mark, the black ink, it automatically gets split into different colors. Okay? This black ink, it gets split into colors. Example, yellow, red, blue. Now suppose this is yellow color, this is red and this is blue. Just imagine, suppose this black spot, it has black ink, right? The water started going up on its own because of capillary action. When water started moving up, this black ink, it has different dyes. Black ink, black color dye മാത്രമല്ല, ഈ ബ്ലാക്ക് ഇങ്കിൽ പല കളേഴ്സിൻ്റെ ഡൈസ് മിക്സ് ആയിട്ടുണ്ട്. പല സൊല്യൂട്ട്സ് ഒരു ഇങ്കിൽ മിക്സ് ആവുകയാണ്. That is what I told you, to separate different solids or solutes in the same solvent. അപ്പോൾ ഒരു ബ്ലാക്ക് ഇങ്ക് ആണ് സോൾവെൻറ്റ്, അതിൽ പല ഡൈസും കൂടെ ചേർന്നിട്ടാണ് ബ്ലാക്ക് ആവുന്നത്. അപ്പോൾ ഈ ബ്ലാക്ക് ഇങ്കിൽ കൂടിയിട്ട് ഇങ്ങനെ വെള്ളം പോകുമ്പോൾ whatever dyes we had used to prepare this black ink, those colors, those dyes, they get automatically separated. Okay? Suppose yellow dye was used in this black ink. So yellow has traveled this much. Along with water, this black color has split. Yellow has traveled this much, red has traveled this much, and blue has traveled this much. Now why is this difference? Why yellow has traveled only this much, red this much, and blue this much? Because of the difference in the solubility of the dyes. Yellow, it കുറച്ചേ soluble ആവുള്ളൂ ബ്ലാക്കിൽ ഇങ്കിൽ, സോ ഇത്ര ദൂരം പോകും. റെഡ് കുറച്ചും കൂടെ soluble ആണ്, അതുകൊണ്ട് കുറച്ചും കൂടെ ദൂരം മുകളിലേക്ക് പോയി. ഏറ്റവും കൂടുതൽ soluble ഇതിൽ ഏത് കളറാണ് കാണിച്ചിരിക്കുന്നത്? ബ്ലൂ. So blue has traveled a little bit more father. കുറച്ചും കൂടെ ദൂരെ പോയിട്ടുണ്ട്. Is it clear, children? So again I tell you, take a filter paper, cut it in the shape of rectangular paper. You can try this at home if you want. If you have tissue paper, it can be seen. Okay. So make a black spot with black ink sketch pen. Where you will mark it? Not at the edge. You have to use some space, maybe around 3 to 4 centimeter. Make a black spot here. Then dip it in water in such a way that the spot must not touch the water. Only the edge of the filter paper must touch the water. Now what happens? Water rises up on its own automatically because of capillary action. And when water rises up, the black ink also gets split into different colors. That means all those different colored dyes were used to make this black ink. Black ink color colored dyes and dye. And I told you why blue has traveled farther, why yellow only this much, because of the difference in their solubility. Yellow, black color കുറച്ച് അലിഞ്ഞിട്ടുണ്ട്. But blue കുറച്ചും കൂടെ soluble ആയിരുന്നു. Okay, so from this you understood that chromatography is used to separate soluble particles in the same solvent. ഒരേ solventൽ പല soluble particles ഉണ്ടെങ്കിൽ, soluble ആയിട്ടുള്ള solutes ഉണ്ടെങ്കിൽ, we can separate those on the basis of color. Okay, so ഇതിൽ എന്തായിരുന്നു property? Color. Now what about the applications of chromatography? Actually this is paper chromatography. Chromatography is used in industrial purposes. Other uses are also there. The first one is to separate colored components in dyes. As I told you, dye is D-Y-E. This was a black dye. Adilulla red, blue, yellow dye aanu thanne verpette because of chromatography. Okay, to separate the components from dyes. And the second application is to separate the poisonous substances in blood. Okay children, so in the textbook they have given you 2 applications: to separate components from dyes and to separate poisonous substances that are mixed with blood. So I hope today's techniques are clear to you. First one was centrifugation, that is high speed rotation. I told you the property, I told you the applications also. Butter from curd, precipitates, blood cells from blood samples. In chromatography, to separate poisonous substances that are mixed with blood and to separate the components in dyes. And the property is mass difference. Hope you have understood the topic, and with the hope that you will write everything in your files and submit it or show it to me or your class teacher, I now wind up the session. Take care of your health and follow SMS. What is SMS? Follow social distancing, wear mask and use sanitizer. This is very important now. Okay my dear children? So see you all in the next class. Till then, it is bye bye from the teacher. Thank you. I will come to